Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 16th of September, comes to you from London. And I'm going to focus much more on energy today. I always cover energy at the end, but I'm going to start with energy because we've seen a lot of volatility in power and gas markets, and I just want to take a look at that. So, really fascinating to see. This is TTF. This is the main European gas contract, Dutch gas front month, and we saw yesterday this big candle pattern, this shooting star. And interestingly, we were up 18% yesterday at one point, and then fell right back. This morning we were down 10%, and we've recovered right back, and that's showing up in the 60-minute chart here. So this is the daily chart, and this is the 60-minute chart. So really interesting to see the strength of this recovery, and that's going to be really key as to whether we can go higher. So that's what we need to watch out for. So first of all, I'm going to take a look at the energy mix. We're going to look at Brent Crude. And what's interesting about Brent for me still, we are above the cloud on the daily and on the 60-minute. But the key thing is this higher low scenario. And we've still got to break this 76.40 level to negate the fact that we had this lower high, lower low scenario. And that's still in train until we break that 76.40 level. I'm also slightly concerned about the seasonality for crude oil. It's not a great time of year. Normally crude falls around this time of year. This is the average of the last 10 years, what tends to happen. So I am just have been watchful of this. If you like, crude oil has been the elephant in the room for the last several weeks. So that is one thing that could ruin the party for energy prices. US Natgas is making new highs, 550. We touched 560 yesterday, but we're still very bullish here. We've got big targets here. This is the daily, the 60-minute, the 1 minute. This is a medium term, short term, and very short term. If you're trading any of these products, you really need to be using the 1 minute point and figure targets. And we see here we've got targets in both directions, which is really quite key. So this is what you've got to watch if you're short term trading it. Coal has dropped back as well. This is starting to look a little bit like a bearish engulfing pattern on the daily. Here your OTC data will be very insightful. We do have a downside target to 120 on both the 60-minute and on the 1 minute chart, so it does suggest 5% downside. Emissions are actually up this morning. And we have seen the emissions chart on the 60-minute chart rolling back down through the cloud, has put us in a bit more bearish mode. We are up this morning, but we do have these downside targets. And again, if you're trading emissions, these 1 minute targets will be really key. So coming to gas and power markets, we start by looking at NBP. This is the UK contract for natural gas. And if I'm just going to put a stop loss on this chart. You just literally press the S key in Updata, and you see here this level here that the 100 we came back to, that's quite key as well. So the fact is that we did draw back 15% in July, 15% in August. We haven't done that yet from a high point. So we're still very much in train on the chart here. If we look at the 60-minute chart and do the same exercise, it'd be interesting to see what we pull back in August here. And this will be much more granular. 17% there, but if you want to lock in this this current run, then you have to look at how far we're coming back. The interesting thing is we are just pulling back to these levels. So for the moment, what's going to be absolutely critical is, will we make a lower low? So if we make a lower low, that is when we start to get very concerned for gas markets. So the lower low is really quite key there. And we do have, again, a little bit of a shortage on the 1 minute chart of targets. If we look at TTF, similar picture. We're pulling back to trend here, 15%. No surprises that it's similar. We do have a reactive move this morning on the chart on the 1 minute. These 1 minute charts over the coming days will be really critical. So we saw here this morning at 64, 60, we had this reactive target to 70. We haven't quite got there. We've got a new downside target. This will change in real time, this picture, and this is what you've got to really look at to trade intraday. And if you're trading on the week, looking at the days, then your 60-minute chart is going to be what you need to be watching, and that's going to be pretty key as well. Taking a look at German power, Here we're seeing we're down this morning 1.3%. Again, the retracement was around 11% here on the and 7% on the shorter term chart. Interestingly, we are seeing a little bit of a break here of this this trend, although we are just finding cloud support really quite key. The most important thing, of course, is if we go through this low, we then create a new lower low. So that's what we have to watch. We've still got a target for 123 euros on the Cal. That seemed unbelievable, but that was given back at 85. Remembering that the 97 target was given back at 54, which we gave to clients in March. We've got upside and downside targets. Watch your OTC data and how this plays out. Nordic Power down 4% this morning on the Cal and on the quarterly as well. And if you're going to trade these systems, one thing to look at is the system testing. So here I've just used a flip-flop stop loss for TTF. And what's really interesting, this is the trading system equity curve. This is the underlying, so we're beating the underlying. The main thing is if gas prices start falling, the short moves here will allow you to keep running. So whilst it might have been better to just buy and hold as a strategy, here this will allow us to lock in profits if we see a downturn. German Power, quite interestingly, with the same strategy, is actually showing the volatility here, and that system is now starting to come back in line. But if we turn short, this equity curve will go up, whereas the underlying won't. And if we can look at the various parameters here, we've got the top 10 results with all the Sharpe ratios, etc., and all the trades, and you can take that out to trading, of course. But so these stop and reverse systems, and I cover this in my training course, are really key for getting the most out of German Power. But the most important thing for the moment is keep an eye on these 1 minute targets. That's what's going to be key. If you're trading power, the 1 minute targets on your OTC data, and the same for gas. So here's MBP. Watch these targets. I will look at this screen in a couple of hours time, and I'll have a whole new set of targets. That's the way it works, especially on these 1 minute charts. So that's going to be pretty critical for deciding, but just watch for a lower low. That's going to be the really critical thing in the coming hours and days. Will we go lower than the low we've set this morning? That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.